Welcome to Fast Keto. I'm your host, Ketogenic Girl. Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode. I have the pleasure of having Dr. Anthony Gustin joining us today. He is the founder of a company called Perfect Keto, and you may also know him from his podcast, which is called the Keto Answers podcast. And we get into a ton of stuff today, lots and lots of ground covered, his experience with Carnivore, how he does keto, what his top keto hacks and strategies are, his top keto travel hacks are. We talk all about cholesterol. What does it mean? What's in his coffee? What's his morning routine? What's his best advice for entrepreneurs who want to get into the keto space, and so much more. It was such a fun and fascinating discussion because we covered so many different topic areas, and I really enjoyed having Dr. Gustin on the show today, so I hope you enjoy today's episode. All right, guys, I am so excited to tell you about the brand new version of my free ebook, Keto Reset. I first released it in 2015. I spent the entire summer working on this to make a brand new updated version, and you can get your free copy by going to ketogenicgirl.com, click on free ebook, and you can sign up for my newsletter and you will receive your free copy of the book. It covers so many different topics, including finding your optimal protein range, how to use the different macronutrients to your benefit, a starter grocery list. It's such a great place to start, and a guide to quitting sugar. I added so many new sections and expanded it, and I'm really happy with the final result. I think you guys will get a ton out of it. And if you are not a beginner to keto, there's still a ton of great information in there that you'll find. It's also a great little book to send over to anyone that you know who might be interested in getting started on keto or just learning more about the science behind it and how to test for ketosis, and all of these different things are in the book. So I hope that you enjoy it. And if you sign up for my newsletter, just know I don't send out a ton of stuff, maybe once a month at the most. If there's something I've come across that's interesting, I don't send out a weekly newsletter. I don't really like getting emails all that often myself, but when I do find something interesting that I think that you will enjoy, sometimes I'll send out a new recipe that I've worked on for the blog, or just something, an article or study that I think you might find interesting. But for the most part, it's not a high volume newsletter, so you can know that if you receive something from me, it's something I think you'll really find valuable. So you can go to ketogenicgirl.com and click on free ebook, enter your name and email, and you'll get your free copy of my brand new ebook, Keto Reset. I recommend you check out my 28-day Ketogenic Girl Challenge. What it is a full 28-day meal plan and program that includes all the recipes and foods that you need to eat for 28 days. I call it the 28-day challenge because it's just a great way to get past all the information overwhelm. There's so much information online about keto, and this way you can just get past that. All the macros are calculated for you to get into a state of ketosis, and I was able to do that by using tried and true proven macro approaches that I've developed over several years of doing the keto diet and working with over 3,000 people to date on this program. Our Ketogenic Girl community in the members group is incredible. Everyone in there is so supportive, providing helpful tips and hints and sharing their successes and struggles and challenges as well in the group together, because we're all in this together gaining more health. The 20-day challenge program comes with weekly shopping lists, meal plan overviews, a guide to testing yourself and interpreting the results for keto, and it also comes with my support and coaching in our members only group. So go check it out at ketogenicgirl.com. It's the 28-day challenge, and any purchase of the 20-day meal plans gets you access into the challenge. You can choose to get the program either soft copy or with a printed copy as well. It's printed on beautiful paper, spiral bound, and I ship it out to you the same day. So go check it out, the 28-day Ketogenic Girl Challenge at ketogenicgirl.com. A few disclaimers. By listening to this podcast, you agree not to use this podcast as medical advice, as I am not a qualified healthcare provider. The information presented on this podcast is for educational purposes only. Ketogenic Girl is not qualified to provide medical advice. Consult your own physician for any medical issues that you may be having. This entire disclaimer also applies to any guests or contributors to this podcast. Prior to beginning a ketogenic diet, you should undergo a full health screening with your physician to confirm that a keto diet is suitable for you and to rule out any conditions or contraindications that may pose pose risks or that are incompatible with a ketogenic diet. A keto diet may or may not be appropriate for you if you have any kind of health condition, whether known to you or unknown, so you must consult your physician to find this out. Anyone under the age of 18 should consult with their physician and their parents or legal guardian. Good morning, Dr. Gustin. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a treat. So you're coming to us from the East Coast, but I know you told me that you also spent some time in Austin, or you kind of split your time?
Yeah, I split my time right now between Austin and Brooklyn, but usually all over the place. So I'm traveling quite a bit these days, mostly for work, for some family stuff. But yeah, it's just, I don't really know where to call home these days. So it's been a little bit of a challenge, but it's been fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Is part of the travel also because of your business and the way it's set up? Like I was reading a little bit about your story, and you have a very cool entrepreneurial story. So is that why you split your time between all these places?
Yeah. So Austin is great to build a business. And so we located the business Perfect Keto and Equip Foods. We have both of those kind of out of the same building. And I was in San Francisco for the last 5.5 years. After I left grad school, I went there to open my clinics. And then after about 3.5 years, I transitioned to the business that I'm doing now. And at that point, San Francisco just didn't make any sense to build a product-based business. I mean, if I were to build a tech company, it would have been an awesome place to continue my time, but it just didn't really make sense anymore. So moved the headquarters to Austin, and also just splitting time between there and Brooklyn. As where my girlfriend's from, she likes it here, and just kind of get a little change of pace from Austin. It can be a little slow at times, but it's I think a good balance between the two.
It's nice to have the balance, I think, especially New York is so fast-paced, intense, and it sounds like you kind of have a perfect blend of that slow living and then fast-paced living as well. So that's pretty cool. Now, for anyone who is listening who hasn't heard of you before, maybe you could just tell us a little bit about what brought you to keto.
Yeah, so the ketogenic diet and nutrition is something that I've been fascinated with for a long period of time. I was super overweight when I was younger and had a lot of health problems. And so I figured out the nutrition was kind of the key to modifying that super early on, and pursued my doctorate in chiropractic and master's in sports rehab because I wanted to use both functional movement and nutrition as a way to help people before they have problems that are too late to be fixed. And so I've always been tinkering around with nutrition. And then actually in undergrad, I think it was maybe like 10 years ago, which makes me sound very old, but that one of my friends and I were obviously trying to get super ripped up for the summer. I went to school at Wisconsin, University of Wisconsin. So winters are very, very long. And then when summer comes around, you're an undergrad, you want to look good. And we actually took out our biochem textbooks and our biology textbooks and figured out what the best mechanism to do that was, and kind of indirectly landed on a ketogenic diet, which is kind of hilarious now that I look back on it.
Jackpot.
Yeah, it was actually a little bit more of a carnivore diet. So we were eating essentially only protein at that point, and then some fats added in, just because at that point we were eating like really lean proteins. I think that, I mean, obviously everybody learns along this journey, but at that point, I was still bought into the whole notion that animal fat was bad and this and that. And so it was a lot of high fat, like olive oil, things like that, as well as just lean protein sources, chicken breast and whey protein shakes and things like that. And it worked. And through that, I think that after that stage, I just really kind of dove in and learned more about kind of real food nutrition and whole food nutrition, and kind of, I don't know if you want to call it paleo or primal, whatever you want to label it, but that was the next phase. And then after that, and I was in my clinic, I was really starting to experiment, and then kind of using that approach as a foundation to everything else, started applying, more stuff came out about a ketogenic diet. I go, oh yeah, this is great for weight loss. But then all this research in the last 5-10 years has been coming about how effective it is for treating other conditions. So then started toying around with it more myself, maybe 5-6 years ago, and then also in my clinic as well with patients who, depending on if they had metabolic problems, few neurological things, cancers even, we were using that as an approach and as an adjunct to therapy, and it worked wonders. So at that point, it's like 3.5 years into clinic, I realized I did a little bit of a math problem. And I realized that if I were to continue on the rate that I was, but seeing people one-on-one, and even we had grown our clinic to 6 locations by then, so it was doing pretty well as far as most clinics go. And the amount of people that I would have helped in my life at that rate would have been around like 12,000, which to me, looking at billions of people in the world and our food system and the way it is even in the US, I was a little bit discouraged by that. And so I was thinking about ideas where we could help people gain access to the same knowledge of kind of foundational what was helping most people that I was working with, which was nutrition, eating real food, doing things like a ketogenic diet, and then making that a more scalable approach. And so that's how I focus more so on switching to both Equip Foods and Perfect Keto as my main thing.
Hey guys, I want to tell you about a super fun giveaway contest that I'm doing from now until the end of September. You can enter by going to iTunes and leaving me a rating or review. You will enter to win a free copy of my Build Your Day meal plans. I'll ship them to you. They have over 200 delicious keto keto recipes, and you can custom build your own meal plan day by day by using the recipes and all the forms in there that I have. There are tons of resources in there and so many easy to make recipes. I also have a no-cook version of the plans, and you as a winner can choose which one you get, the regular Build Your Day or the no-cook Build Your Day. And these meal plans are an extension pack as a part of the 28-day challenge. They retail for $249, but if you are a member of the 28-day challenge, they're only $49, and I will ship you one for free if you are the winner of this contest. So to enter, you can go to iTunes and leave me a rating or review anytime between now and the end of September, and your rating or review will enter you into the contest with one entry. And you can go to Ketogenic Girl under contest giveaway and find all of the details and full contest rules there. It is open to anyone living in the US, Canada, UK, Australia, and parts of Europe as well. So go ahead and leave me a rating or review. Go to Ketogenic Girl under giveaway contest to find out more from the drop-down menu with all the full rules and requirement information there. So good luck to the winner, and thanks in advance for leaving me a rating or review. I can't wait to read it. That's a really cool story. And now, how many locations do you have?
So I sold my shares of my clinic back to my business partner at the time. And so I haven't been practicing for almost 2 years now.
That's interesting. That's really, really cool.
Yeah, there's just no way I could have maintained both of those things at the same time. It's just,
Right.
Both Equip and Perfect Keto have gone in a direction that there's no way I would be able to split my mental energy from both things. And I mean, now we've helped millions and millions of people. And so I feel better about the direction that I went. And obviously, one-on-one providers are great and super necessary. But I think that the scale at which I wanted to solve problems was not being done, especially at the time when we started these companies. And so it was super important for me to switch and go in that direction.
Well, switching gears here, what's in your coffee?
Oh, fun fact. I'm not drinking coffee for a little while. So.
Are you doing like Dave Feldman water only challenge kind of thing? Or
what is this? I don't know about that.
Oh, I saw he was doing like a water only challenge this summer.
Oh, no, interesting. I'm doing a lot of tea. So I had 2 glasses of matcha this morning, and it was just straight matcha. I really just enjoy the taste of tea and coffee. To give a little more background on the coffee decision, there's been a lot going on in the last year or so. And I think that, work's been crazy, life's been crazy. And I think I need to just kind of take a step back and do a little bit of a reset in a few different ways. And so as much as I love coffee, I'm taking it out for a couple months and I feel fine. I actually felt no problem taking it out initially and just been drinking green tea and matcha. But when I do have it, I gravitate towards either just a shot of espresso or a cold brew. And then same with tea, iced matcha is my go-to. But yeah, I've done it all. I've done the different types of bulletproof or fat coffees and collagen in it and like everything, you name it. I've probably tried it and done it for a little while. And I just think that I feel best when I fast in the morning and consume nothing other than just coffee or tea. And so that's kind of been my go-to for the last year or so, I'd say.
I should ask instead, what's in your mug? Because then you have...
I'm drinking ketones right now, if that counts for anything.
Oh, nice. So you're doing like more like your morning drinks, like a matcha tea or just some kind of tea?
Yeah. And then if I have anything on top of that, so then I might have, it depends if I'm working out or if I'm just working or whatever. But I would say, so we have a product that I designed, a nootropic, which is just to help boost mental clarity, which is one of the main reasons why I use a ketogenic diet or just exogenous ketones like I'm having right now. And so I'd say either one of those things. Probably, I got up at 6 o'clock and had my first matcha then, and now it's around 10. So
what's the macronutrient breakdown of matcha? Is it 1 gram of carb or something?
I don't think there's anything. It's just a tea leaf. So matcha is just the highest grade of green tea leaf. And then they take that and they grind it up into a powder. And so that's all it is. And so I don't think that there's even any appreciable carb in there.
Do you do the whole thing where you take out the little wooden whisk and like in a kimono and do the whole ceremony?
So I used a fork, but I did have my kimono on today. Yes. Silk, I got it in Japan last year. It's beautiful.
That's awesome.
Little tea ceremony.
Did you go to Japan?
Yeah, and I'm actually heading back in a few weeks.
No way.
It's one of my favorite places in the world. Yeah, it's amazing.
That's awesome. I spent most of my life in China, so I'm a huge Asiaphile, and just love Asian culture. And I just love in Japan the ceremony that they put into tea. And it's almost like keto we're developing. We need to have like a ceremony to go with all the boosted coffees and stuff, like some kind of robe and maybe some like incense and some
Yeah,
kind
something.
of like.
And I think that, so when I'm in Japan in a couple of weeks, there's no way I'm going to continue to be keto there. And I think that I try to make sure that people understand that it does not need to be a freakish obsession. Like, I think that people get into it so far and so deep that they feel so guilty if they even look at a carb, and then just kind of highlighting that, okay, and maybe I'm too pragmatic to really give great advice here, but I mean, nutrition is a tool in my opinion. And if you've reached your goal with that tool, then it's like, okay, well, do you want to have carbohydrates? That's totally fine. Like, I'm not treating an illness, for example. I feel like body comp wise, I'm in a really good spot. I feel like inflammation wise, I'm at a really good spot. There's not a lot of things that I have to do a ketogenic diet for. And so if that's the case, you don't need to always be in this state 100% of the time. And having people not feel guilty about that, it being an acceptable thing in this community, I feel like we're getting to a point where it's very binary of like, oh, you're keto or you're not keto. And I think that we need to back up a little bit and realize that there's more of life to be lived than just figuring out what macronutrients we're eating.
Yeah, I laughed pretty hard. I was watching Dr. Ted Naiman presentation a couple days ago, and he's like, for whatever reason, I've decided to have to be in ketosis for every single minute of every day of the rest of my life. I don't know why, but that's what I've decided. It made me laugh so hard. Yeah, why do you have to be in it every day? I agree. It is a great tool. I think there's something about identifying with it in some way, that it's like you are keto as opposed to, just following a ketogenic lifestyle or having it as a tool. Like you said, there's so many other ones like Carnivore, which we both had some interesting experiences trying out this summer. I want to ask you about it. I listened to your podcast all about it and your blood work and everything. And sounds like you were feeling pretty fantastic when you tried it out. But what was your overall, take? And have you formed an opinion on it? Are you still forming an opinion? If you have one, what is it?
Yeah, so I did the carnivore diet just because I think that I was seeing so much of it end of last year about people using it and getting incredible results. And I thought, okay, this is going to be something that people are going to ask me about. I should probably do it to have my own experience. That's kind of how I like to gain experience a lot of times. And there has to be something about it. If this many people are getting this many positive results. And so I gave it a shot and I did 5.5 weeks roughly. And I think that it was, and I felt incredible. I think a little limiting on the aspect of being able to socialize and all that other stuff and like just generally enjoy food. I mean, I love having red meat and I love eating steak and I pretty much ate a ribeye every single day and didn't really get bored of it. But I mean, eating hot meat in Austin in the summertime is every day is like I just wanted to like crunch on a piece of lettuce at points just because it was so damn hot. But yeah, I mean, I felt amazing. I think I got even a little leaner than I already am. Strength was great in the gym. Overall mood and clarity of energy and mental clarity was topped off. Yeah, I mean, I felt awesome. So I kind of ratcheted it back, and what I've been playing with since then is maybe like 80% carnivore and doing a lot of just micro greens in super easy to digest, low fiber vegetables since then. I think the highest fiber thing I have now is probably avocado. And so, yeah, I mean, just doing that and then a little bit higher on the animal protein and the meat since that. And yeah, I feel great. My opinion on it as far as if people should do it or not, what its use cases are. This is another thing where I don't think, the only time I've seen it where people I think that it's kind of a necessary thing for people to approach is if they have like a really severe autoimmune condition that has not been able to be managed in anywhere else, or like really extreme food intolerances. And at that point, like I've seen people who have been on now for years that they can't even add in spices or else they'll have flare-ups. If that's the case, then yeah, it's a great tool for you. I think that just a general person who wants to have a normal life, I don't think that it's necessary to stay on it forever. I think that, again, we look at the same side of the spectrum here. So if you look at carnivore diet, we get good results, great. Okay, we have some mechanisms now that are surfacing that might act why. I think that, obviously you're in ketosis, you're getting low fiber, and you can help restore a lot of gut functions for people. You're eliminating a lot of food, so it's a food elimination diet. Protein and animal products are very high nutrient density. You have some certain plant anti-nutrients, you'd say, in that. So you're getting a break from that stuff so your body can recover. So like these are all things that obviously we look at that are positives from a carnivore diet. But I also think that we still have positives from eating vegetables and plant matter as well. So I'm not of the camp where it's, again, we're getting very, very militant already in kind of the carnivore community. If you eat one thing of broccoli, you're a freak and like you need to be exiled. And I think that we need to take a step back and realize that there are some good things about eating plants as well that I think shouldn't go away. And I think that if you don't need to eat them, or like if you can't because you have an autoimmune condition, again, like I think you had Michaela Peterson on, and I think that her dad, Jordan Peterson, has been talking a lot about nothing worked for them until they did that. Okay, great. Like I want people to be as healthy and optimal as possible. And if you find that this is what works for you, or like, great, you should be doing that until you figure out, or you get some rebalance in there, or you figure out what foods are really flaring you up so you can eliminate those. But do I think that an average person needs to be doing this all the time? I'd say no. And if you like it and you feel great, then all power to you, and find out what works for you. But yeah, I think it's a hot topic right now. I posted some videos on a YouTube channel. I have like 3 YouTube videos up, and like they went crazy. I had like 1,000+ comments, very split, of vegan warriors and carnivore advocates kind of going after each other and going after me. It was a super interesting time as more information is coming out about a carnivore diet. But yeah, I'm interested to see how it shakes up the next few years.
So I've been, doing research on it and joining a lot of Facebook groups and stuff just to observe and see what results people are getting, or just really for observation. It seems to me there's 2 main reasons that people do it and stick to it. And the main first one is illness, like you said, autoimmune condition, or either physical illness or mental illness, any kind of depression or mood issues, mood related conditions like Amber O'Hearn. And for Michaela, Michaela, it's both mood and, physical ailments, which she's had incredible ones. For Amber, it was weight loss, but then mood. But it really seems to be that. And then the other side of it, which I found really interesting, is food addiction. And there are people who have been benefiting from it. And the reason that they stay on it, because I'm like, why would you stay on it? Like, what's so bad about just having a little bit of salad or a little bit of asparagus with your steak? And if there is food addiction, it seems like it really works for those people. It seems to be those are the main 2 things that I've seen. But I think the best 2 things that have come out of this is, like you said, elimination diet and protocol for people to just try and see, what foods kind of affect them in different ways after doing elimination protocol, and having an elimination protocol be trendy. But the main thing for me that I'm loving is higher protein, and seeing people try out higher protein, questioning higher protein levels, and just overall, trying that out and seeing for themselves if they eat more protein, can they stay in ketosis, and, maybe lowering some of the carb. There's so much that you can learn from doing an elimination protocol, even just 7 days, 2 weeks, and then, testing things. And then the fact that a lot of people are trying higher protein and questioning protein levels. And there's been so much discussion about that. I really like seeing both of those things.
Yeah. And I think that you made a good point about the relationship to food in the carnivore diet. Even I, who I'm pretty extreme with my food intake and what I eat on a day-to-day basis. Like most of my friends would tell you that I'm psycho, which I think a lot of us in the space are kind of in that same boat. But when I was eating this way, especially in the first week or 2, I was finding myself like going to eat nuts or going to snack on this or that. And I was like, why the hell am I doing this? I'm like, I'm not even hungry. This is just what I do on a day-to-day basis. And kind of recalibrating what the reasons I was eating and when I was eating and things like that, and just being aware of that was kind of at the forefront. And I think that even with I've been cooking my whole life, so I can cook really good tasting meals. And I think that there's a thing around palatability with carnivore diet as well. Like when you eat only one food source and that's it, your hunger levels are just regulated to a degree that you can't get otherwise. And so if you have, even if it's healthy food and you have a meat and a salad and a side and this and this and this, you're going to eat way more of that food than if you were to just eat one of those things. And so thinking more about, okay, maybe we should start stripping down our meals and just eating one thing at a time and not have this extreme variety of ridiculously tasty food that our body can rewire and eat and eat and eat. And I think, so Rob Wolf in his book, Wired to Eat, pointing this out about food competitions, that people, for instance, will eat ice cream until, like an ice cream eating competition until they want to puke, but then they'll have French fries on the side. So if you switch from cold and sweet and creamy to like hot and crispy and fried and fatty, and then go back, your brain kind of resets your hunger signals and lets you eat more and more and more. And so I found that with a carnivore diet, I would eat and eat and eat. And I knew it was at the point where I knew I was under eating, and I was trying to force myself to eat, but I couldn't do it. And that was a thing too, where I think that I was like, oh, okay, interesting. This is something that I'm probably just generally, I don't stuff my face every night, but it was impossible to overeat, in my opinion, on a carnivore diet. And I think that just the principle of that, I think that there's a lot of things to do with that. Protein satiating, a lot of micronutrients in it, but also just eating one thing at a time, just eating a steak, for example, and just thinking about that in terms of meals in general of okay, let's make a dish that's kind of incorporated all the things. And so things taste the same. So now we're getting, let's say you make a meat dish or whatever. Last night I made steaks, but in the pan, I cooked up a little bit of chopped kale and some shallots, but everything tasted the same. So I think that you don't switch from a cool kale salad with dill in it to a hot steak. You know what I mean? And so just trying to think about incorporating foods into one type of eating experience instead of 17 different eating experiences of what most people get, which is fun. It's great from time to time, but I think that regulate appetite and hunger, there's something there that I think we're not looking at. very closely.
Yeah, I noticed that I've never been so in tune with my hunger signals and differentiating between what hunger is and appetite is, because once you get full, when you're just eating, say, burgers or steak, you really feel it. And then you look at more food or meat, I know for me, and it's just not appealing. But carbs are always appealing. To me, cheese or carbs, like you could always have that. There's always an appetite. So that was like the difference for me between hunger and appetite. And it's a new way now that I can test. Am I actually hungry right now, or do I just have appetite? Because I can just look at like a piece of meat and it'll tell me right away if I'm interested in it or not. The body actually is attracted to it or isn't based on your nutrient needs, I think.
That's a great point.
I found that really, really interesting. So do you eat intuitively? Did carnivore change any of that for you, or what's your kind of situation with that?
Yeah, this is another thing that people are always like, well, what's your fasting window? Are you like 16-8, 24? And I say, like, I fast when I'm not hungry. And when I'm hungry, I eat. And that's how I operate in my life. It's like, again, very basic. It works for me. So I'd say from an intuitive level about hunger levels, yesterday I woke up hungry. So I had breakfast. I don't have breakfast most days, but I was hungry. So I ate. Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, from that standpoint, I don't try to force fasting in this very specific window every single day. But it turns out that the way I eat and the way my metabolism is, I'm good with a meal to 2 meals a day. And that's generally how I eat. But if I'm hungry, I eat. And so that's how, that's how I approach fasting. I think there's a big stigma there right now about like not being super specific with fasting windows and like, oh, well, are you fasting in the morning or in the evening? And is it circadian fast, or is it this window or that window? It's like, man, just eat when you're hungry. Like, I don't know why it needs to be so confusing.
Yeah, I used to hear people say stuff like that. And I was like, I couldn't relate to it at all. For me, going lower in carb, because I could always eat. I could just always eat if there's food around. I could eat even if I wasn't that hungry. But for me now, I'm noticing that I'm able to just eat when hungry when I take some of those really stimulating carbs out of the, situation. But it is nice to be able to do that if you can and just eat really naturally like that. I think some people may not be at that point and may need more guidelines or, kind of a framework, to be able to know when to eat and when not.
Yeah, totally. And I think when people have metabolic issues where they've eaten a lot of carbs and they have this blood sugar dysregulation and things like that, of course, it's going to be much harder. So being more tightly regulated about it would make sense. But on my end, I think that I've been eating like this for so long, like to your point that,
right.
And I could eat all day long. Like I could smash a bowl of macadamia nuts right now for sure. But it doesn't mean that I'm hungry. And so just being okay with not eating food when I'm not hungry is another thing. And maybe that's just because I'm so busy now that I'm not distracted or like trying to distract myself with food or use it as a way to cure for boredom. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe that's another issue that I'm just not.
Hey guys, just taking a really quick break to talk about the 28-day Ketogenic Girl Challenge. If you're interested in doing a ketogenic diet for yourself, it's a great place to start. I teach you everything about how to follow a keto diet to get yourself into nutritional ketosis. And it includes 28 days of meal plans. It comes with weekly shopping lists, how to interpret results, how to test yourself, a complete guide to getting started on keto. If you've been keto for a while and you're just not getting the results that you want to in terms of your health or fat loss, or you are brand new to keto, the 20-day challenge is a great option because it also comes with my free coaching and support in our members Facebook group. And you can post any questions that you have about the meal plans, about keto, and I am there supporting you. We have an amazing community in our group. I like to call it the happiest place on earth because everybody in there is so excited about following keto, about having found something that really works well for them. And everyone in there is just so kind, caring, generous, and supportive. And it's a really fun place to be and hang out. So if you like more info on it, you can find it at ketogenicgirl.com. And it's the 28-day Ketogenic Girl Challenge. And now back to our interview. So what's an average day for you? And do you ever check or track macros? I mean, you probably have a pretty good idea that what you're eating is generally keto, but what's an average day of eating like for you?
Yeah, so I do not track food. I haven't in a long time. I think that if I had a goal that I wanted to reach, let's say I wanted to get super lean for some reason or whatever, I'd probably start tracking food a little bit closer, which is not a priority of mine right now. Mm-hmm. Coffee or tea in the morning. Right now, obviously tea, like we talked about before, and then some sort of, it depends again if I'm working out or not, but if I am, then I have beef protein and whey protein and collagen all mixed together, and some sort of ketone or MCT powder or oil after that to kind of get my brain in the right zone and to get my focus all the way up to where I want it. And then I usually don't eat until mid-afternoon or early evening, and I like to kind of space. I felt best also, this is something that I've noticed, is that if I have a bigger meal, instead of having a later dinner, I much prefer to eat around like 4 or 5. I mean, I get up super early, so I get up at like 5:36 most days, but eating at 3, 4, 5, eating that one huge meal, and then maybe if I'm still a little hungry, having a light snack later on, but doing that has helped me sleep so much better than if I were to eat at 7 or 8, I've noticed. And it's at the point now where like even if friends are going out and having dinner that late, I'll just eat beforehand and just have like a small appetizer or something at that point. I just feel so much better going to bed and sleeping and resting and waking up if I eat earlier. So then I'll do that, and it'd be a pretty substantial whack of protein. So we're looking at like a ribeye steak or something like that with, I would say taking up 3/4 of the plate, and then on the side, fat source, so maybe some nuts or avocado or something like that with, like I said, some microgreens or sprouts are a huge part of my diet. And so I eat a lot of that type of stuff, seaweed, just little weird vegetables like that. And then, or maybe some fermented stuff, so like sauerkraut or something like that. And so very, very basic, super straightforward. There isn't, most meals look like that. To snack on, looking at like a lot of macadamia nuts and beef jerky and stuff like that. But yeah, pretty straightforward for me.
So right now it sounds like you're at your optimal in terms of your overall health, and you're more just doing keto for the brain clarity and acuity.
Yeah, I'd say that I'm not at optimal health right now. I've had food poisoning this year like 4 times.
Oh,
and
no.
So it's just been ravaging. And so like I don't have many gut symptoms right now, but a little bit, let's say like energy issues from some gut stuff that I'm working through. And so I've tested and I'm working through that. But it's just, to fix gut problems like that, it takes forever. And so not having fiber is a good thing for me when treating gut issues like this. And so that's part of why keto is working, and carnivore especially is working right now. So there's that. But yeah, generally I use it more for the way I feel as far as inflammation wise. Like I do a lot of gymnastics training and just regular strength training. And I think that I've tried it with higher carb before, and my joints will just ache from all the load. If I'm on a ketogenic diet, they feel amazing. So that's a huge part of it. It's just general inflammation levels. As I said before, just having been overweight when I was younger, I think that I skew more towards putting on fat super easily if I eat carbohydrates. So like maintaining kind of a super easy body comp with a ketogenic diet is obviously a great benefit. And then I think the main reason is kind of focus and mental output is just on another level with the ketogenic diet. So that's my main 3.
It is amazing, the brain benefits. I think I probably would just, if I could choose one, it'd probably be that. It's just amazing what it does. Really, really cool. So what are some of your top keto hacks?
Yeah, I'd say eat real food is the biggest one. I think that the thing that people get so messed up on that, maybe this isn't a hack, but it seems like sometimes it's very counterintuitive, but it's just you go online and go hashtag keto on Instagram or something like that, and 95% of it is weird baked cheese stuff that doesn't, I don't even know what it is. Yeah. You know what I mean? I think that then people are like, well, why am I not losing weight? You don't need to eat like a crazy excessive amount of non-real food. Okay. It doesn't matter what diet we're on. Like that is never a good recipe for anything that you're trying to do in life, whether that's any sort of physical or health goal. Like that is just not a good move. And so I think that just eating real food is a big thing. And maybe to parlay on that a little bit more is not having to eat an absolute excessive amount of fat just because you think that that's what's necessary in a ketogenic diet. Mm-hmm. Like I don't eat that much fat in a day. Mm-hmm. People think that you need to like chug MCT oil and avocado oil and eat 15 avocados a day. So it's like, yes, it's where your energy is coming from, quote unquote, and all this different stuff. But I think that people are really overdoing it on the fat quantities when they switch into a ketogenic diet. Yeah,
I think it probably comes from the fact that, well, there are a lot of people out there saying that you need to eat gobs and gobs of fat, over 200 grams of fat. And that's the only kind of, thing that defines nutritional ketosis. To me, it's more the carb control and controlling the starches. And I think it maybe is just hearing 75%, 80% fat. That sounds like so much that people don't realize that it can be a small amount. And even 50, 65%, is still a keto or high fat plate, as long as the carbs are really, really limited.
So yeah, I think that one of the biggest things that I get from people who ask me questions online, so I get a lot of questions on Instagram and I respond to every one of them. I think the most common one would be something like this. It would say, somebody says, help, here are my macros. It's 20 grams carbohydrate, 40 grams protein, and 300 grams of fat. I'm in ketosis, but I'm not losing weight. What's going on? And I'm just... it's like I probably get like 4 to 5 of these a day, some variation of this. And so like I'd say that most people, I'd say fat loss is the most important thing for people when first starting a ketogenic diet before they realize all the other benefits. And so this is common, but I think that our reliance right now on just over consuming. And I don't know where they're getting these numbers. I don't know if it's like some macro calculators out there, or if they just think that they should be eating as much fat as they can cram into their mouths. I don't understand where this is coming from. And then I look also at their feed, their Instagram feed, and it's a bunch of weird pounds of bacon dipped in cream cheese, and that's what they're eating on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, that's a lot of fat. And the body is going to make ketones if there's an excessive amount, even, if it's not from your own body.
Right. Yeah. And I just don't think that it's necessary ever for anybody to be eating that much fat. I think that, and this is why I don't like percentages either. I think that forces you into a little bubble. So I'm not a big ratios or percentage of macros type of guy. I'm more of a setting carbohydrates, setting protein, and then rest is fat type of person. And I think that I've found the most amount of people have benefit that way.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing how much information there is online for people to learn and find out stuff, but there is a lot of misinformation too, unfortunately. And for someone to be taking in that much energy, like 300 grams of fat, even 200 and above is a lot, unless they're using it for therapeutic uses for epilepsy or seizure control or, some other conditions that would be a lot of energy.
I think even if you're using it for seizure control and epilepsy, I think that still having that much is unnecessary. I think that then, okay, yes, ratios matter for people in very specific cases, but I don't think that you need to consume that much. And so, yeah, this is something that I think that is not doing that, I think is a hack. I don't know if that's a hack, but
totally. Yeah, that's a great one and really, really helpful for people, to know about. Now, I know you travel a ton. So do you have any travel hacks or things that you do?
Yeah, I fast a lot when I travel. So travel days are fasting days for me. And that's a time where I will not eat when I'm hungry because the food choices just aren't great for me. And so that, and if I do find somewhere where I can eat, I just do, at that point, I try to get like a lean protein because I don't really trust the protein sources that most places have, airports, things like that. And then just something super simple. So like I'll grab nuts or something like that. But yeah, I don't have a problem right now fasting for even a couple of days at a time if I need to. But then whenever I get to the place I'm going, most places pretty well scoped out at this point, and I usually go stock up on groceries when I get there. And so that will look like some beef jerky, some avocado, some nuts, some super simple stuff like that. And then I'll just, go to restaurants and get meat and have some small vegetables. Like I would say, there's not that much difference, but yeah, I mean, I think the travel days are pretty much fasting days for me.
It's like traveling is a travel hack in itself because there's no time that it's easier to fast. Like the food's super unappealing. You're super busy. There's just not a lot of time to be, wondering or thinking about it. Yeah, it's great. Like it's a nice way to fast.
I have some longer flights that I've been on the last year pretty frequently. So, I mean, like 10, 12, 16 hours. And I won't eat the whole time or drink. There's another weird thing about flying and traveling in general is that if you notice, like 75% of people around you, no matter what time of day or what place in the world, will be drinking alcohol. Like, I don't understand this cultural thing.
Yeah. I thought it was just on flights. It's just like everywhere.
Right. Airports everywhere. And I think like even like airports and flights, it's like no matter what. Like I flew to New York from Austin a couple of days ago. It was like 10 a.m. on a Monday or something like that. And a guy next to me slammed like 4 Bloody Marys. I've drank on flights before. I'm not super against drinking or for any reason or anything like that. But like I feel awful. I felt awful. Like it's just like it's been a very small exception, but a little bit of a tangent. I just don't get that culture. But if I don't drink and I don't eat, and I'm not watching movies, it's like this trifecta that blows the flight attendants' minds. Like they can't understand somebody who would not drink, not eat. And like I book a lot of stuff on points, like especially like if I'm in first class and stuff's free. And I'm not like overly consuming everything in sight and like distracting myself with movies or like I'm reading or working. They're like, they can't even comprehend what is going on and what's wrong with me. I had a couple flights ago, I think I was going to Paris. The flight attendant was like actually worried that I was not going to make the flight. It was like 9 hours.
What do you mean you don't want this warm cookie? Like,
she's like, honey, are you sure? Like we're gonna have to like get oxygen out at some point. Like if you're not gonna eat this whole time, like you have to eat something. So yeah, I think that it's been something that's at this point it's just comical. As much as I travel and like just seeing the different experiences or different reactions to people is kind of hilarious to me.
Yeah, there's something about there's a license to kind of indulge with all these snacks and alcohol about flying. Like Jim Gaffigan has this great bit about the lineup at Cinnabon is like massive for people who are just like, well, I might not ever, make it to my destination. So I may as well have like a Cinnabon.
Yeah, maybe it's a good rationalization.
Yeah, I've always wondered about alcohol. I think a lot of people are probably imbibing just to feel more relaxed on the flight, like as a, counter to maybe feeling some anxiousness or...
Yeah, I mean, especially when switching time zones like that, fasting to me, even if I have snacks and I eat like really healthy food, I feel way better switching time zones when I'm fasted. I don't know if it's some circadian rhythm thing or whatever the mechanism is. I'm not clear on that. I know I feel great. So add in awful food plus drinking plus not really having high quality sleep. And I've done it that way before as well. And it's awful. It's terrible. Like I would take short-term anxiety over a long-term feeling like shit for like 5 days because I didn't. So I just destroyed my body on this flight. So yeah, that's a weird one.
Yeah, I think, flying is so stressful for the body, and it's probably nice to be fasting and just, I don't know, be in some kind of somewhat autophagic state, where you're just like more in repair mode. You're more in, fasted mode as opposed to being in fed mode. And I think it definitely, I notice it makes a huge difference in adapting. Now, I want to talk a little bit about cholesterol. It's great to get your opinion on some of these things. Now, I follow Dave Feldman's work and, some of the incredible stuff he's done with lean mass hyperresponders. And what's your opinion on that theory and what goes on with cholesterol when you're on a low carb diet?
What's the theory? I don't even know it.
So he has a theory basically with lean mass hyperresponders that cholesterol levels overall tend to be higher because I'm assuming that it's because cholesterol is a repair molecule. So there's more repair happening and there's also more fat burning happening. So you have more fat in the blood. And I wonder if also having ketones in the blood would affect that as well because it is a tiny piece of fat. But what's your opinion on that, on having higher cholesterol levels for people who are on low carb, even though what he finds with the lean mass hyperresponders is they have really low triglycerides, low, blood glucose, all their markers are really healthy. It's just that the cholesterol tends to be higher.
Well, everything that I've read from that guy, he's pretty on point. So I'd buy it at face level. I haven't looked into it in depth that much, so it's hard for me to speak on that too crazy. But I think that one of the things to look at here, instead of just generalizing cholesterol, is, what type of cholesterol? Are we looking at particle size? Are we looking at particle amount? Are we looking at just LDL? What are we actually looking at here? I think this is one of the biggest things that when we simplify it like that, people get very confused and they go to their doctor and the doctor tells them they have high cholesterol and that's bad. I just that is the most indirect and silly thing that I've ever heard in my life, to be able to simplify things with no evidence or data that it means anything and to tell people that it's good or bad in general.
What is your response to people when they say, oh, you're on low carb or keto? Isn't that bad to eat so much fat and have high cholesterol?
Don't rip me apart, science nerds out there like this. I know this is very simplified, but cholesterol, the LDL cholesterol in general, is a response to inflammation. And so if you have inflammation in high amounts, then it will go there as a repair molecule to kind of layer over inflammation. And what happens over time, let's say, for instance, again, a very simplified model, but you have chronic inflammation from eating really shitty food or not getting sleep or having a lot of stress or eating a lot of carbohydrates that your body can't clear out of your bloodstream or all of those things. For instance, the arterial lining, the endothelial lining of blood vessels will get some inflammation on it and your body will raise your cholesterol and it will go try to smooth that over and then that will get inflamed and then over and over and over and over and over again. And then that leads to plaques. And so yes, the cholesterol has a role to play there, but it was because they had inflammation in the first place. And so we try to demonize this thing in a very roundabout way. That's like saying that if I'm in a neighborhood in Brooklyn and there's a lot of crime and police officers come to fight that crime and to arrest people, and they have to come over and over and over again. We say, oh my God, the police officers are bad. We need to take them away. And so it's like, okay, that doesn't really make a lot of sense. We should probably be asking, why are there police officers here? And so this is something that I think that, again, much deeper conversation and a very complex subject. The fluctuations of the stuff, it really depends on the person and their family history of stuff. For instance, if somebody has a family history of everybody in their family has heart disease, okay, well, if we break it down and look at small, dense LDL particles and Lp(a) and things like that are actually raised, even if everything else is under check and the triglycerides are good and their inflammation's good, we probably still want to pause on those people and try to manage that and bring that down. It's because they are a little associated with heart disease. And if you have a family history of something like that, that's the highest predictor if you're going to have that disease. And so then I think that we actually need to look at that in context. And whereas if somebody, for instance, is 20 years old versus 80 years old, it's always such a context-driven answer. And I think that that's where people get wrong, is they try to label health, especially labs and markers and how to manage health and optimizing it just based upon information that's really pulled out of context. And I think that's the most foolish way to approach health in general. It's such an individualized thing that really just depending on goals. And you're always going to optimize for something. And while you're optimizing for something, you're probably going to take away optimization for something else. So there's only so many things you can really optimize for. And just looking at that as far as like, okay, what's your goal? Is it longevity? Is it to live as long as possible? Is it to have the most amount of health span? Is it to feel as good as possible? Is it to perform the longest period of time? Like those things are kind of all a little bit contradictory. So, I mean, even cursory stuff, let's say on protein restriction and caloric restriction, I don't really think that a lot of this stuff has much weight to it, but let's say it does. And let's say that caloric restriction and protein restriction extends lifespan by 10%. Okay. You'd say, okay, let's do that because I want lifespan to be that long. Okay. Well, let's then think if that leads to under eating food and under eating protein, and that leads you to being like a frail old person that like can't walk upstairs. Is that what you want? Like, if that's what you want, that's fine. But this is something that we're always kind of taking from somewhere to optimize somewhere else. And so I think getting very clear on goals and what you really want and realizing that you can't have it all and trying to optimize for the things that are important to you, I think is probably the biggest thing. I think that when you dive down to health in general about some of these markers and how to manage them and if it's good or bad, it's just such a nuanced conversation that really requires a very, very long and deep, detailed look into it. And that's why it's really tough for me to give super generalized answers. I know we're like way off topic from the question you asked.
No, I love it. It was a really great little rant. I think it's awesome. I just really like to kind of show that there's more to cholesterol, I guess, than, it being this thing that's been demonized. Absolutely. Our body makes cholesterol every day. I think we make something like over 3,000 milligrams per day. And depending on, how much you eat, if you eat a lot of eggs one day, maybe your body will make less. Like there's just so many more facets to it and how important it is for synthesis with our hormones and all these things. So I like just, getting different people's take on it. And, because it's one of those knee-jerk things, right? That hopefully won't be around for much longer, but people always bring it up like, oh, isn't eating that butter or that fat, bad for your cholesterol? Yeah,
it's a tough thing to fight upstream against. And I think that it will actually, in the next 10, 20, 30 years, become harder and not easier to fight against. It's going to become more polarizing. I think the reason why is that we're starting to get overwhelmed with data. Like everyone says that data is better and data is good. Okay. What data means is complex. And with complexity, you need more experts. And what happens is people don't want complex. They want simple. And so they want to know, is my cholesterol high or low? Is that good or bad? Period. And so actually, I think until we start getting some really advanced measuring techniques that are super non-invasive, like I think this problem will actually get worse in the short term, which is frightening. But I think that if you look at time horizon of a couple hundred years, I don't think it's a big deal. I think we're going in the right direction. But I think that right now, it's going to be in the next 10, 20, 30 years, it's going to be harder than it is going to be easier.
Right. I think it just comes back down to trying to keep it as simple as possible and just eating real foods, trying not to eat 300 grams of fat per day. That might not be the most optimal thing. But going back to what you were saying about optimizing for different things, what do you optimize for in general?
I optimize for health span and reduction of cancer, since that's my main family history.
Oh, okay. And what are some of the strategies you use? It's mostly a ketogenic diet. And what's your exercise activity level like?
It's pretty high. I'd say I do something every day. And so, ketogenic diet, obviously. I think fasting, I pepper it in there. So beyond like I said before, I eat when I'm hungry, I fast when I travel. I also try to do extended fasts throughout the year. Another tricky thing is we just don't know, like this is another topic I think that people are really overblowing. And we just do not know what is the best routine of fasting. Is it a fasting mimicking diet? Is it 3-day fast? Is it 7-day? Can you have bone broth? Can you have ketones? Can you have MCT oil? What counts as a fast? Does it break my fast? Does it not break my fast? And I'm sure you've gotten these questions too. We do not know. We don't know. We can't really measure autophagy right now really directly. And so if we can't measure that, and like that's one of the biggest things we want to go for, well, we can assume, we can look at other markers indirectly. Like if you have cancer, you can look at tumor growth and stuff like that. And like Thomas C. Fried does a really great job of this, correlating glucose ketone index and things like that to tumor growth. But other than that, we don't really have really many good proxies to measure if a fast is effective or not. And so we just don't know. But to me, just not eating for 3 to 5 days is very little downside. And so I'd say like as a risk, it's not a very high risk. That's again, another conversation. But so I do that, try to be as active as humanly possible, which is a big thing for any human and what they want to fixate on. I think that I'm trying to get more into, it's hard when I travel, but doing a lot of sauna and cold plunge work which is just feels awesome and I feel amazing afterwards. But yeah, a lot of stuff coming out there as well. So yeah, I mean, it's a constant tinkering.
What excites you the most right now in the keto space?
I think that this is going to be a very biased question or answer just because of where I'm working right now. But obviously we're building the company and things are pretty crazy there, but we're focusing a lot on food products that are of really high quality. And I think that we're getting a lot of companies now and it's a really cool community where like none of us really see each other as competitors. I think we're all focused on the same mission, which is making ketogenic food way easier, like food choices. It's like, I imagine at some point going into a grocery store and being able to find like healthy, non-food additive stuff, like in any aisle that's compliant with a ketogenic diet, I think would be amazing. And I think that's what I'm most excited about, is that a lot of stuff is going in that direction. And while I admit that I think that eating real food and just meat and vegetables is probably the best go, that the reality is that as long as there are aisles in the grocery store, people are going to shop in them. And so I want them to be blanketed with as much healthy options as humanly possible so people can make that transition from eating a Western diet all the way to eating only meat and vegetables. But obviously, sometimes people are going to be shopping in those aisles. They're going to be getting things. And I think that getting substitute food products that taste better than real stuff, or the existing things out there that are hopefully as cheap or cheaper and are way healthier for you, I think is a super awesome thing that is moving forward right now. And that's kind of what I'm most excited about.
That's really cool. Now, what tips do you have for budding entrepreneurs in, this amazing keto space and low carb that's been opening up so many opportunities for people?
Start now and educate yourself. I would say would be two big ones. I think that, like you said before, that there's so much misinformation right now that a lot of parroting is going on. So somebody will hear something someone else said, and they'll just repeat that. And then that person then has a chain of people under them that just repeat things. And then so you play in this weird game of telephone where you're getting misinformation that becomes misinformation times 10, like down the line. And I think that if you want to help people with this stuff, grab a textbook, read it through, understand this stuff, and always think kind of in first principles of why does this make sense? What is going on here? And not just looking up other people's blogs and regurgitating that information. I think that would be the best advice. But as far as starting a business and getting things going, I'd say start now and figure it out. It's been done before at this point. So if you want to do it, it can be done. And I think that a lot of people get hung up on it. I think that if we had 1,000 entrepreneurs jump into this space, I think we would have a lot more that could be done in a much shorter period of time. So I welcome it and I encourage it. And so, yeah, I mean, just get started now if you're interested in doing it.
That's really great advice. Can you tell us real quick what your morning routine is like?
Yeah, super straightforward. So I wake up, I have a tea or coffee if it's coffee time of the year. And then I do a little bit of journaling. And so that is just usually whatever is on my mind and a few simple topics. And then I meditate for like 10, 15 minutes. And then after that, I either read or do writing. And then I work after that for like 2 hours in what I call deep work. So 0 distractions and just focusing on one main topic. And then after that, I usually work out. And by that time, it's mid-morning and it's back to work. So pretty simple. Yeah, usually after meditation, I do a little bit of movement and stuff too, like 5-10 minutes of movement. But yeah, it's pretty, even if I'm traveling or at home or whatever, it's a pretty strict part of my day that I don't let go.
That's awesome. Well, what can people look out for you and, in terms of new and exciting things or goals that you have for the next year?
To see what I'm up to, follow me on Instagram. Like I said before, I respond to every question. So if you have any questions, just reach out to me there at Dr. Anthony Gustin. And then the business is at perfectketo.com or Perfect Ketones Instagram, I believe. And so yeah, that's where all the focus is going to be for the next year for me.
And your podcast as well.
Yeah, podcast, Keto Answers podcast. So thanks for mentioning that.
Yeah.
Too many things going on. I forget about them.
Absolutely. I think you said you're going to try Carnivore again.
Yeah, I want to do like a 12-week thing, but it's just trying to figure out the time in my schedule where it's just going to make sense. I just when I do Carnivore, I usually want to focus on really controlling where my meat consumption comes from. And in Austin, it's super easy to hone in on that because I have a ranch that I go to. But if I'm jumping around 15 places, it's really hard to source the right amount and only eat that. So it's kind of a tough thing when you're traveling, in my opinion, to keep it as high quality as I'd like it. So, if I get a shot in Austin where I'm going to be there for 12 weeks, which is looking unlikely in the next few months, that I'll try to give it a shot and do more in-depth blood work and consider a lot of the questions that people had for me that I have not been able to answer to this point.
Yeah, that'll be really cool. As I know you shared your blood work, from the last trial that you did or the main one. And yeah, it'll be cool to see what your results are and kind of biohacking. I love that kind of stuff. So yeah, thanks for sharing all of your great information with us today and taking the time to be here. I really appreciate it, and put some of the links to your stuff in the show notes as well. But thanks so much for being here today.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in to the episode today. I had such a great time chatting with Dr. Gustin, and he has so many great tips from doing keto for such a long time, being so knowledgeable on the topic, and such a great entrepreneurial story as well from what he's been able to build out of a passion for helping people, and super fascinating stuff. So we'll put links to some of the things that he brought up in his products in the show notes. I hope that you guys enjoyed the episode. If you did, be sure to leave me a rating or review. I would love to read it. And be sure to head over to ketogenicgirl.com to grab my free ebook. I just released the new version of it. It's called Keto Reset. And if you go to ketogenicgirl.com and click on free ebook, you can sign up for my newsletter, get your copy of the book, and I would love to hear what you think of it. So go over and connect with me on Instagram. The best place to send me any messages or questions about the 28-day challenge is on Facebook, and that's at the official Facebook page, which is The Ketogenic Girl. So I'd love to hear from you. Until next episode, I hope that you have a fat-fueled rest of your day.